What up, YouTube? Welcome back to another portfolio update. Today's Friday, May 8th, and we're actually seeing a little bit of a drawdown. Account sitting at 174.1. We saw an all-time high earlier this week, May 7th, and I'll show this to you guys at 176.0. So super happy with this. Today, I wanted to cover my $8,000 AMD loss. Not necessarily a loss, but if you guys have been following the episodes, I sold my LEAPS call a couple of days ago. And actually, it was kind of an L because AMD surged another like 16%. So we'll talk a little bit more about that and how that contract's looking. We'll chat a little bit more on the Amazon call I told you guys I was going to sell. They might be changing my mind on it. I still have a limit order out here and see if it fills. And I'll give you guys an update on Google. We're actually close to 400, which is insane. So if you guys are not aware, I have a big position on Google that I started buying last May. And this has been probably the best investment I've made so far, with a $31,000, almost $500 gain. So 141%. Google's unstoppable. I think Google is going to be one of the major players in the next couple of years when it comes to AI and just cloud infrastructure in general. Their search business, Waymo, they own part of SpaceX. They now just invested $40 billion into Anthropic. So these guys are in the forefront of technology, and I think they're going to stay that way for the next couple of years. Very bullish on Google. So this is what we're going to cover for today. Let's get into it. So this is actually pretty painful. AMD is actually up another 7%, and we sold our contract last week at around 350 or 360, and we booked a $12,000 gain. However, if we look over here, AMD's up another 20% since we sold our contract. And I added this LEAPS call right here on my watch list whenever I was buying the other LEAPS call that I bought. And if I just had held my other contract for another week and been a little bit more patient, I would have been up another 8 to 10K at this point. So kind of hurts, I'm not going to lie. But in investing, there are no guarantees. Like, I'm still happy I made an 80% return on my investment. And you're going to have things where you buy and then you're going to sell out of it because you either make a profit or because you change sentiment. And there are so many things that you just can't control when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like, did I know that AMD was going to rise another 20% in a week? Awesome news that like I had no idea that were going to happen. No, I can't control that. So a lot of times you just have to be happy with the gains that you take. So if you look here at my contract, we had an $80 call expiring January 21st of 2028. So we had a lot of time baked into the contract for the underlying to move. And we sold it for $27,400. And right now that contract's trading at 36.9. So we sold for 24, but we could have made another like 12 grand, like I was saying. And like I mentioned, guys, like, what can I do about it? I got out of the contract. I know there's a lot of more time for the contract to move up, but nobody's ever gone broke from taking an 80% profit. And it kind of sucks that I'm taking short-term capital gains rates at that $12,000 win. But there's so many things that I can't control. And overall, like, I'm happy with my 12K win. And if you're trading AMD, I'm sure you're super happy with the performance as well in these last couple of weeks. So I wanted to share this with you guys. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I ended up winning, but I could have won a lot more, if that makes sense. And this is not me even being greedy or anything. This is just me being, I think, a little bit impatient. And this is a lesson to learn. Like, whenever you're bullish on an underlying, just hold the contract for longer than, a couple of months and wait for some bigger moves to materialize. So this is something I've been working on. Whenever I get like an 80 to 100% gain on a lot of my contracts, I usually get out of them. But if you look at Google, for example, I'm over 140% of gains in that underlying, right? Just trading shares. In shares and options behave different because options, you're going to have to sell them at some point. Regardless of what you do, you're going to have to sell them and incur capital gains taxes. But that's the price that you pay for trading with leverage and with trading options, essentially. So with Google, for example, I'll probably never sell my position, just because if I do, I will have to owe a bunch of money to the IRS. And I'm not in the business of making the IRS rich. And the goal long term is to have like a portfolio worth 600K, 800K, $1 million, where I can take an S block or I can borrow margin against my portfolio and use that money for other ventures. So maybe I have a down payment on a house that I want to go buy. I go and borrow 30K worth of margin from Robinhood, maybe 40, 50K, which is only at that time like 5% of the portfolio, maybe 10% of the portfolio. Like it's very safe. And I don't have to pay taxes on any of that 50K because it's a loan. And that's the goal here. Like it's to build a big enough portfolio where you can get a loan against your portfolio. And yes, you got to pay interest on that money, but the interest you're paying on the loan is way smaller than if you were to go sell $30,000 worth of capital gains in Google. So that's the goal here with my portfolio. If you're still here, don't forget to subscribe. The channel's been getting some traction, but a lot of you guys are not subscribed. So go hit the subscribe down here and leave a like if you like these videos. I'll be building this portfolio up to $1 million and beyond. The goal is to get to 200K in the next coming months. And I think we can get there, especially if Meta starts picking up. My biggest positions here today are in Meta and Microsoft. So I'll update you guys on Microsoft here. I bought more MSFT the other day, bringing my cost basis a little bit higher. I had a 404 basis, but now we're at 408. I think Microsoft at these levels are super attractive. I own 51 shares, representing $21,200. And I would love to see Microsoft have the returns of Google. Whenever I opened my Google position, it was around 20K. And now it's ballooned up to a 50, 60K position. So super happy with Google, and hopefully Microsoft follows the same trend. I am bullish on Microsoft long term. Them trading at a 22, 23 PE ratio is just bizarre to me. I think their valuations are going to catch up into the low 30s like Google is right now. They trade at a 33 price to earnings ratio. Nvidia also trades at a low PE ratio. However, I think Nvidia trades a little bit different than Microsoft just due to their market cap. And the same thing with Meta. They trade at a low PE ratio and they're growing their earnings per share. These are the companies I'm looking for. Microsoft is growing their earnings per share every quarter. If you check out their earnings right here, they're beating earnings every quarter, year over year. So this is the goal. You want to find companies that are beating earnings and growing their earnings per share with a low PE ratio. And that's how you find opportunities like Google was last year and what I believe Meta and Microsoft are right now. So just not financial advice. This is just what I think. These are my recent buys. Bought a couple of shares earlier this week. We saw a little bit of a bounce from earlier last week in Microsoft. If you guys are not familiar, I'm also along with MSFU. And this is a smaller position. I saw a lot of the comments talking about why I would trade MSFU. This is a short-term bet for me. So I'm in and out of MSFU in a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. I really do think Microsoft has seen all of the pain that they're going to see. And I think from now on, you'll be a lot of upside, especially with big news and good news with OpenAI and the revenues growing. Microsoft, I think, has been beaten down unfairly these last couple of months and last year, really. So that's why I went long. MSFU, I'm already up 4%. Could I sell it at $400 when? Sure, I could book in that $400. If you're trading with something like this, like, a 15, 20, 30% gain, especially a high conviction stock like Microsoft is for me, I don't think it's out of the picture. So that's the goal with this right here. As you can see, this represents 5.9% of the portfolio. So a very, very small amount of the overall picture. So whenever you're trading triple leverage or double leverage ETFs, make sure your ratios are in check. Don't be putting your whole portfolio or more than honestly 10% of your portfolio into a double leverage ETF or options trading, because you can get burned. If you're not aware, these ETFs, they reset every day, and the volatility is, of course, double than it is on the regular underlying, but it's not all fair, because whenever you see pain with a double or triple leverage ETF, it takes a lot longer for you to recover. So you end up losing overall from that market, either trading sideways or trading down. So be very careful with these double leverage ETFs or just leverage products in general. When it comes to these ETFs, they've been pretty popular this last couple of years. Close the episode today. I'm still very bullish on Amazon. We actually saw a great week again at a 3.5% gain. This last month has been incredible at a 21.4. I really do think Amazon is going to reach the 300s. I did place a limit order on my contract for 150. So if my contract rises another $800, my order is going to get filled. I make 60 something percent on my money, 65%, which I'm happy. This contract is going to expire January of 2027. If you're not aware, theta starts picking up, 3 to 6 months before contract expiry. So if I sell in June or if I sell in July, I'll be good. So that's the goal here with this contract. I'll keep you guys posted on this. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. A little bit of a different background. I'm here in my brother's room, visiting the parents and the family. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Have a good weekend. I'll see y'all soon.